Hey, I'm Tanner, and today I'm going to talk about some of the overly negative comments I've been seeing about Halloween the game. In this video, I want to challenge some of the viewpoints and criticism about Halloween the game so far, and offer a balanced and realistic outlook on what the Halloween game will actually be. I'm making this video because I think somebody needs to say it, is we do not live in a world of absolutes. Our reality is often somewhere in the middle. And if we can critically think about what Halloween the game can actually offer, the good and the bad, I think that's the fairest view on what success or failure could look like for the title. The first take on Halloween game that I'm going to address is that people are grandstanding. I've read so many comments where people know the future of Halloween the game and they know it will fail definitively. And a lot of the time, these people grandstand, they present like a better than thou attitude about it. They're like, well, I just know it's going to fail. And I'll read a couple of examples from my comments. The DBD player's mad. For what? This game will die in the first 4 months and they'll regret taking Michael from DBD. I promise. This will be a flop. They keep pumping out these horror movie games that are cookie cutter and lose attention and are left for dead by developers after 2 years. This game seems like a cool game, but it won't last long. It will die in 3 months because Myers is strong AF and they will abandon it like they did to poor TCM. It will fail and you are part of the problem. It's a remake that we've already played by the same developers. You are calling the other games they made the best, but they are all overpriced trash. And they abandon them and leave fans hanging only a year to 2 years following release, usually starting with trash skin releases and ending with shutdown of the servers. Okay, so obviously there's some really strong opinions, and those are all real comments from my videos across social platforms when I've been talking about Halloween the game. Now here's the problem with these comments and this mindset. I think it's easy to jump on the gun media and illphonic hate bandwagon. Totally is. Look at what happened then to F13 and TCM. That will happen now to Halloween the game. Remember, my whole point here is we do not live in a world of absolutes. Also, let's really think about how one defines success and failure. So overall, a lot of comments want to talk about how Friday the 13th failed and how Texas Chainsaw failed, so let's actually talk about it. Was Friday the 13th a failure because the lawsuit caused all the additional content to be scrapped? I think parts of it could be considered a failure. The longevity of the original game was a failure. It had to be shut down eventually, and you can't play it in its original form today. But I argue it can also be seen as a successful game. It is one of the most iconic asymmetrical horror games out there and has an enduring cultural impact in the landscape of asymmetrical horror in general. Memes are referenced to this day, gameplay style is referenced to this day. It had a lot going for it and had a ton of cultural impact. And it had so much impact that there's actually modded builds that are still updated to this day that have added all that additional content to the game that are completely fan built. There's clearly an appetite for this game and a lot of respect and love for it. And I consider that its own success as well. So again, the game definitely had failures with it, but it also had successes. The world we live in is in the middle of those. And let's talk about TCM. Was it a complete failure because it stopped getting updates and the additional promised content was not delivered on? I would say that was absolutely a failure on their part, but the game is playable today and it sold well over 1.1 million units. Those are public numbers. Now I would ask, do you call that a failure? I personally would call that a success. So yes, there was total failures about the game, and then there's some successes with it. And as of this week, Halloween pre-release, the Texas Chainsaw player base has actually gone up on its Steam count for the first time in forever. So it's seeing another slight peak after a year or two lull. And the game's not taken down. Like, you could literally log on today and play it still. So I would not consider that a failure of a game if you can still log on and play it and people are actively on the servers. So here's my realistic response to all the naysayers in these comments saying they know what's going to happen to Halloween the game and they know that it's going to fail. I think that the absolutist mindset that this game will fail is a really shallow and easy kind of outlook on Halloween the game. In reality, this conversation is more nuanced than that, and I think it depends on varying degrees of what people define as success. So my realistic take on Halloween the game is look what happened at Friday the 13th and Texas Chainsaw. That was bad. I do not like how those ended. There were certain failures about those games I do not want replicated when it comes to Halloween the game, and I have to be wary that that's very possible the same things could happen. But I think it's important to note that there are nuances to the successes and the failures of both of those past games that do not technically apply to Halloween the game. And this is in regards to the nuances between the intellectual properties. We know that this Halloween game is based on the original 1978 film. John Carpenter's involved, and they seem to have the rights all in a line for this one, and they're not trying to do too much too early on. Could Halloween the game be different? That's the question that I'm willing to ask. Now, I'm weary of how the previous games have ended. I'm weary of the community treatment in regards to this and all of the controversies that have transpired. I was there for it all. History could repeat itself, but I do think there's nuances to Halloween the game that could offer a different outcome than previous games. The second criticism I'm going to address is wish lists and unrealistic expectations kind of masked as criticism. And the problem here is they're not criticizing the game as is, the product that has been shown to us and is going to be put in front of us very soon. I see a lot of people putting expectations on some theoretical features and things and content that comes out after the game is released, like in addition to the game. And an example of this is I saw another creator's video recently that talked about their criticisms of the Halloween game so far. And basically this video of criticisms really just talked about wanting skins from the recent Halloween movies incorporated to the game. It had some map ideas and like thoughts on how to expand Haddonfield and go into different areas of it and include locations from the recent movies. And they also talked about wanting a clear roadmap from developers for planned content for the game. Also, even if it can't be clear, just like an idea of what's going to come out. Now, when I think about this realistically, I think it's great that we actually want more for the game and want more from it, you know, including additional skins, additional movies, things like that. I just think the reality of it at this point, it's been communicated that this is only based on the original 1978 movie as of now. That's what they have the rights to and the IP they can kind of explore. So why is the criticism that the game could be a failure if it doesn't include all this extra stuff from additional movies that are communicated to not be a part of this as part of the game? It just feels like people are setting an expectation that this needs to be the eventual future of the game and needs to be a part of it when it's already been communicated that that probably won't be a part of the game. I feel like for the roadmaps piece, we've also seen this go horribly with F13 and TCM where they couldn't even deliver on what they promised. And honestly, nowadays, even giving an idea of what's going to be promised, I'm sure that could be changed on a weekly basis of what the game studio knows they can handle and what they can. So just realistically thinking about it, I'm sure they don't want to put a roadmap out right now because they know, number one, it hasn't worked in the past and maybe they can't deliver on something or promise that up front. And that's just something we're going to have to cope with. So I just really feel that people are setting their expectations for something that's already communicated to not be happening in some ways. And to make it extra clear, it's okay to critique Halloween the game for not having all this additional stuff and additional movies. Like, that's totally okay. But once you get past that and you're like, okay, it's about the original Halloween movie, it would be interesting to see more critiques based on that, knowing the universe of what they can function within and not necessarily just writing the game off because they can't do everything in the universe with it, you know? And this leads me into my final criticism, which is the Fortnite-ification of video games and specifically asim horror games. And really what I'm trying to reference here is just the heavy leaning on DLC content. I feel like people are just skipping over everything that's planned and trying to think theoretically about, okay, well, like beyond all this and beyond what we get on day one, like what does that look like in the future? And am I going to be happy with that? Here's my realistic take to everybody that's so worried and already critiquing what the long-term future of the game looks like. First off, the reality is we do live in an era where games are delivering more DLC content than ever. And for the amount of money we're paying, I do think they should be delivering that. Like, there should be future content released. They should continue to innovate on the game because they can and because of the value that we should be getting as players of the game and supporting it. But as we've seen, the reality of working with famous IP such as Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw, is there can and will be some limitations as to what can be done and approved for the game. And just to be honest, like, we do not have a huge game studio supporting this that can just continuously pump out content. And knowing that, we have to kind of recognize, like, this is not Fortnite. And this is also not DBD. This is not owned and original content where they can iterate on it all they want. There's going to be lots of stakeholders involved and lots of rights limitations too, potentially. I've tried to level set my own expectations going into Halloween the game, knowing what potential limitations there are out there. I'm still wanting the most out of it that we can get, but I'm also just trying to be realistic and knowing that, hey, they're not going to be able to include like Michael from the last 3 movies right away. Here's my final take. I'm not mad about criticism of the game, number 1, or number 2, criticism of the companies making the game. I think the criticism is necessary and valid, especially for an IP of this stature. Like, Halloween is the top Halloween franchise. What I'm sick of is seeing a lack of critical thinking and a lack of productive conversation and productive criticism around the game when it's not even out yet. And what I really feel would benefit all these criticisms and conversations going on about the game, some of the stuff that I addressed in this video, is that people should dare to be critical, They should also dare to be positive when it seems like maybe you shouldn't be positive about something, and also dare to ask a question or give something an additional thought that could challenge how you feel or what you think is true. If you think Halloween the game is going to be the best game ever with no issues, I would encourage you to think twice. Like, there's things we should be wary about headed into this. But if you know that Halloween's going to fail, I would also challenge you to think about, what if it didn't fail? What if there are successes with this new game? And my personal feelings at the end of the day are, despite all the fiascos that went down with F13, everything that went down with TCM, and that was like even worse in some ways, I still had fun playing both of those games amidst all the craziness, even like when the game was going to be shut down Friday the 13th. Like, that was such a crazy thing to experience, and it truly made me so sad. But I had so much fun with both of those amidst all their failures. And if I had fun with those amidst all of that, I can make an educated guess and say, I think I'm gonna have a lot of fun with Halloween the game. Whether I get to play it for 1 day, 1 month, 1 year, or like 10 years, I think it's worth it to hold out some kind of hope for the game, because I think there's gonna be some successes about it, and yeah, some failures. That's expected. It's all part of our reality. So enough of me yapping. I want to hear what you guys think below. Make sure to leave a comment and a like if you liked this video, and check out some of my other videos on Halloween the game and horror entertainment in general. And I'll catch you next time. Peace.